Hey everybody, it's me, Undead Viking. I'm here with another video review for you. The game that I'm reviewing today is called Hooch, the card game. Now, this is not based on Turner and Hooch, the movie that you may be aware of. Instead, it is based on the Prohibition era of gangland warfare, if you will. Each person will take control of a gang, and by having different employees at your beck and call, both people that are work with the law and perhaps against the law, you will try to make the best empire, if you will. You do that by, claiming storefronts that create hooch for you, because hooch is basically or alcohol or whatever, basically the cubes are kind of like the money of the game. Those are how you are purchasing different cards and allowing yourself the best chance to complete these different missions and different events and things like that happen as your turns go by. I'll explain more, obviously, on how the game is played when I show you how to play the game. But when I was contacted by Talon Strike Studios to see if I wanted to do this review, I asked them a little bit about the game, and first thing they said, oh, it's a card game, and I was like, is it a deck builder? And it isn't a deck builder, which I was really happy to find out, because it's not that I don't mind deck builders. I just feel like that mechanism's been kind of played out, and for a game to actually that is a card game based game that has like any kind of a deck building aspect to it, I feel that it has to bring something new to the table. And now this has, you have a hand of cards and you play them, and then you get to draw your hand back up to maximum, but you're not like buying cards to like make your deck better and shuffling it up or anything like that. That doesn't occur with this game. So it isn't like that. What this game more is trying to, basically collect resources so you can purchase bigger and better cards. Then actually the kind of neat thing about that is that your cards, basically, in particular, the people that are working against the law, so to speak, your capos or bootleggers or working girls, you get to send them off on missions, and then if they succeed in missions, they come back and they're more powerful and they have more abilities available to them. And so there's cool little things like that going on. And plus, of course, you can go ahead and attack your opponent and try to kill off members of their gang and so on and so forth. And so it kind of is a very conflict-driven game, which is something that I really enjoy. So I was pretty excited to play it. I've played it now several times with my gaming group. I enjoy it a great deal. So let me show you how to play the game, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you exactly what I think, and then hopefully you can figure out if this is something you'd like to put on your game shelf. All right. This is what you would see in front of you if you were going to be playing a game of Hooch. This would be your playmat that would show, well, eventually, your burgeoning gangland empire. And these cards are in the middle, and these are like the characters that you can hire and storefronts that you can place in control, have your gang control, that is going to create hooch or liquor, which is the money, the currency, if you will, of the game. You start with 10 of these little cubes, 10 black cubes, which represent the hooch, and after the first turn you will draw 5 at the beginning of each turn, and that is actually altered if you do have different businesses or characters or what have you. The game, before you actually play the game, you have to pick a faction, if you will. And this is a promo copy that was given to me. So I only have 4 factions, but there will be, from what I understand, there's going to be 7 or 8 different factions. But each person gets a big giant deck of cards, and they all have the same back because of the fact that you actually are going to combine cards before the game even starts. What you end up doing is the cards, a lot of them are like action cards that look like this, for this particular group. But there are also cards, these event cards, and there are also these influence cards. And what you will do before the game starts is that each person will then take out all of the influence cards and all of the event cards, and they'll put them all into one big pile. So if you had 4 people playing, each person would take out all their event cards, all their influence cards. You would shuffle all the event cards together, you would shuffle all the influence cards together, and then you would evenly distribute them back out to all the players, meaning that yes, some influence and event cards are going to be, you know, because this is, I believe this is like the Tigers, and they are kind of a more hostile and combative group, as say compared to like the mortuary people. Yes, there are some mortician group that I really like playing, by the way, but and so you have that symbol, so you can definitely tell the difference. You know, I'll just grab another deck here so you can actually see. So like here's like these are the so you can see the little pick up there. These are kind of like, those are the runners, if you will, and also like their cards are a different color. And as I mentioned, there is a like a mortician's group. You can see there's a little coffin there, and the color for them is different, obviously, as well. And finally, I should mention, just quick, there's actually like the Kickstart group. You can see there's a little Kickstart symbol there, and then their colors are green. But anyway, so that's one of the cool things about the game, is that depending on which faction people are playing, you will have all these different influence cards and event cards that will be given to you in your deck that so you never really know what exactly you're going to be getting, because after you get all the cards, what you end up doing is you place them on your draw pile like so, and then you will draw 5 cards, and that'll be your starting hand, and that will be the hand of cards that you use. So, on your turn, well, I'll just leave that out there for right now. On your turn, you would have those 5 cards, like I said. So you have a hand of 5 cards, and if it isn't the first turn, you do collect any income hooch. Even if you don't have any storefronts or anything that would create that for you, you still get 5 regardless. And after you collect that 5, then you can actually start entering into the phases of your turn. This is not a game where you have simultaneous turns. You do have the ability to attack and affect other people on your turn, so it's always wise to pay attention to what's going on, because also the fact is that you have cards in your hand that you will use, theoretically, to defend yourself with if you do get attacked. So, after you've collected all of your hooch, and just let me show you really quick, like, if, say, like, you had the grocery, this is a storefront, you can see it creates, like, 4. You can see there's a little 4 there. This would give you an extra 4. To your income at the beginning of the turn. And there's also characters that do so as well. Let me just find, I believe, yeah, like here's the bootlegger. If you place an order on your bootlegger during the collection phase, you gain an additional hooch. So you have a certain number of orders that you have each turn, 3 in fact, that allow you then, so you could do that to get more income, if you will. So anyway, so you've collected your income, and you're ready to go for your very first turn. I should mention the first thing you do is that if you have more than 5 cards in your hand, because the last thing you do at the end of the turn is you draw 3 more cards. If you have more than 5 cards, you have to discard down to 5 before you do anything else. But after that, you then will go into what's called the action phase. And the action phase is there's another deck of cards that is the action deck, and you turn the top card over, and you look and do what it tells you to do. So, this particular card, it says here there's a mission by the election rating for a politician. Roll a mission test. If successful, you may take 5 hooch and pay it to the current mayor to become mayor. Or if there isn't a mayor, you just pay the 5 to the bank, and then you become the mayor. So you have to, now this is one of those things where you have to have a politician. And a politician is one of the people that you can hire. Like, here's a politician. And then there's these stats over here that kind of tell you, like, they're worth 4 points at the game. They cost 4 hooch to collect, and they have a defense of 4, and they don't have any attack ability, if you will. And they have a special power. You may remove city politics at no cost. If you become mayor, turn the card over. And so you turn it over, and you can see there's the mayor on the other side, and then he's a little bit more powerful, because city politics cards cannot be played on any of your storefronts. City politics cards are a card that would mess with your ability to get income and so on with any of your illegal storefronts. But anyway, so you have to have a politician. So if you don't have a politician, you can't do that. However, you can, if at some point during your turn, purchase a politician, then you can undertake that mission. And so you do, if you can undertake the mission and you succeed, you get to take this card and you place it in your respect pile, and then that'll be worth 2 points at the end of the game. Then also there's a thing on there that says all players, politics pays for all. If you have a politician or judge on the payroll, you may draw 3 Hooch and place it onto any storefront that you control. So that's something that all players could do. Some of the other cards will have a little Hooch symbol off to the side like that. That means you just gain an extra Hooch. You just automatically get to take that right away at the beginning. Some cards will have a little thing that says mission on the side over here. But that isn't a mission that you can undertake. That is a free mission that if you have an event card or if you have a card that you draw a part of your hand, that you can send one of your syndicate people. Now you should mention these are like the public people, like the good guys technically, you know, the ones that work within the law theoretically, and these are the bad guys. And so you'll be sending syndicate people that you hire, which are right there, on missions. And normally you have to use a mission, like one of your 3 missions, like an order card like this, and you have to place it on your particular player or character for them to do it. But in this one, since it has a little mission thing on there, that means that you get a free one. You can send one off for free. But anyway, so you'll draw the top card off the action card, and then that takes effect and is in effect for your entire turn. After you've resolved everything that you can resolve on the action card at that time, now you can actually spend your Hooch. I love saying that word. You get to spend your Hooch and actually buy different members for your gang and buy storefronts, if you will, and things like that. However, there are some rules that govern things. You can get a hold of a storefront, but you can't open it up. Storefronts on the back, they have a thing that says that they're closed, like this. The problem is that you actually need a character called a mouthpiece before you can actually have a storefront that works. This is because you need somebody that will run the business for you and, like, you know, sign all the different contracts and what have you that'll allow that particular storefront to be opened. And so so you can't buy a storefront right away because of the fact that, well, you could, and you can gain a hold of one by, like, you know, if somebody else has one, you can attack it and take it over. But you can't use it until you have certain characters. Also, like having a capo, as far as like one of these, like this, as far as like the bad guys go, having a capo helps out a lot as far as how many different thugs you can have under your control, which are over here. And these are like your muscle, if you will. You know, you have a very limited number without one. You can have a little bit more with a capo, and then if you can actually level up your capo over to a consigliere, you can then have even more, and I'll explain that in just a little bit when I go into more detail as far as the combat of the game goes. And I should mention that all of these and the politician have a back side to them if you ever are able to upgrade them. And you upgrade the syndicate characters by actually having them complete a mission that you will give them from your deck of cards. So you have these 10 cubes to start out with, and so you can go ahead and purchase what you will. You know, so like okay, I'm going to buy a mouthpiece, and so you just like go there. You can see it costs 7 to have that under your control. And it should be mentioned you only have space for one of each these people. The reason for that is because you can only have one of each person. So you would then take your 7 cubes and you go ahead and place them into the stock for everybody to have access to, and then you purchase that particular person. And then, you know, like you can look, and maybe you got 3 left. So, you know, what else can you get? You know, the bootlegger, as I said, is you know, if you give it, he gives you extra Hooch. And so, and he only costs 3, so you can go ahead and you're going to purchase a bootlegger. You spend your last 3, and that's that. And so now you spent all, as far as like what you can spend on, you can do that. Now, as I said, you can also, as I said, buy storefronts if you have the ability to, like, the reason I didn't buy one after I got the mouthpiece is because they cost far too much, like a 6. Well, actually, I apologize. I could have bought a barber shop, if you will. But I did, you know. So, but in this case, I'm going for. I wanted the muscle. I wanted the people in my gang and before I actually moved out and actually started purchasing stores. But you can also, like I said, purchase these brutes. You're the muscle of your gang, and their combat value is listed there, and also then their cost is on the bottom right, and they go from 1 through 4. So like here's a boss, and like he's got a combat value of 4. There's a 4 there. So after you've completed that, you will go into your actions phase. Well, I should say action phase, but like what's called your play phase. During the play phase, you will be placing your orders on any like your existing players, like syndicate people that can be used for different event cards that you have in your hand, or also just flat out attacking somebody's storefront, or also sometimes you'll have to use an order to use the talent of the character that you have, so to speak, like the conciliary. Their talent is place an order on your conciliary during the action phase and gain a +1 to a mission skill. So you know there's things like that you have to actually use your orders for. Now, to attack a storefront, it's pretty easy. So if somebody has a storefront, let's just say like here, somebody has the pool hall. Now, if a character has a pool hall, what you do to protect it is that you actually hire these, you know, people, like this guy is a Hooch, muscle, and so on and so forth. And you then place those underneath your storefront to protect it, and so you also you keep them kind of hidden like that, so that people don't know exactly which they are. You can and when you don't have your crew aren't in a specific spot, they will like be in your hideout over here, and then if you are going to attack it, you will have hired crew, like let's just say, for example, like you had 2 muscle over here in your hideout, and theoretically you can have these guys as like protecting your, like if you want to protect your mouthpiece, you can have them protecting your characters, or even like protecting your bootlegger, like so. You'd have it like that, and so you would then send your muscle out to attack the pool hall in the attempt to take it over. Now, as I mentioned before, depending on whether or not you have a capo or a conciliary or nothing, it really makes a difference as far as what you're able to have. With this handy little reference card, you can see when you don't have anything, and that's what this is. It doesn't risk that. Once again, this is, like I said, a prototype. You can purchase hoods and muscle. So you can't purchase the higher level wise guys or bosses. You can bring 2 crew cards to attack a storefront. You can bring 1 crew card to help complete an event card, 1 crew card in defense of each payroll character, and 3 crew cards in your hideout. That's the maximum. And you can, so as a capo, you can then hire the wise guys, bring 4 to attack a store, only 1 wise guy, bring 2 crew cards to an event, only 2 cards in defense of each payroll, only 6 crew cards in your hideout, and so on and so forth. Then with conciliary, all kinds, 6 to attack a store, only 1 may be a boss, 3 crew cards to help complete an event card, only 1 boss, and so on and so forth. So obviously, like, it behooves you to get a capo and also upgrade them to a conciliary as quickly as you can, so you can have a better crew to act out your dirty deeds. But anyway, so you say, okay, order. You place an order like so. I'm attacking, and you bring that out, and then this person will then show what they have. And then, depending on the cards that you have in your hand, certain cards can actually affect the actual attack or the defense of what's going on. Influence cards that you have can affect that a great deal. Some like cards will like influence cards will like not allow another player to play any more cards, or some of them, like this one, like influence planning ahead, +2 to your defense when defending a storefront, and so you can go ahead and you can play that as an influence card, like if the character that's defending that. And so then it just comes down to a die roll, and so you have 4 versus 5, 3 plus 2 is 5. And so then you would roll a die, and like first person rolls, and they get really good. They get a 10, and then they roll, and oh, they did horribly. And so obviously then the pool hall would fall to the other person. They would take control of that, and you would actually, the difference between the actual rolls, the total. So one person had 10, and the other person in this case would have 6. They would then have to discard a total value, not cards, but a total value of crew cards equaling 4. And so they'd have to get rid of these two and possibly another hood if they had one, as like kind of a penalty for having lost that combat. And then the interesting thing there is you take over the pool hall, and if you are able in your compo, well, one, you've got to make sure that you can actually have it and have a mouthpiece. If you don't, you take that over, you flip it over to the closed side. But in this case, we have a mouthpiece, and so we can do that. And then we would then have a thing where you could have these guys actually stay at the pool hall and protect it, like so. You can say, okay, they're going to stay there and they're going to guard that, or you could have them go back to the hideout, or you could have one of them stay and one of them go back to the hideout, and things like that. And so you can that you can choose that at that point, and that's actually pretty good too, because then obviously in the next turn, if they're seeking revenge, it's nice to have a little defense there waiting for them when that happens. Now, if you're going to do an event, you have to have an event card in your hand. So like, this event card is a neutralize. You target somebody else's syndicate character, and you can try to kill that particular character. And you can see that there's a combat value here of 2, and so you're going to have that automatically, and then you're actually going to be sending somebody to do it. So like, you have a bootlegger, and so you have these two guys, this combined, you have a 4 now to go ahead and try to go ahead and attack somebody else's character. So for the sake of it, let's say that we're going to, since we have to target a syndicate character, you couldn't target a public character. Let's, for whatever reason, they decided they wanted to go after this, the person's working girl. So they had, but the working girl, let's say, had bodyguards, and so, they, had bodyguards, and we didn't know what they were, but they were protecting her, like so. Now, we have these two, but now remember, because of the fact that we can bring other people, we can bring our own crew card to help complete the event, and so we send along our muscle to go with, and so then we total it all up again. We have a 6, and then we turn that over. The working girl has no combat value, but they got a wise guy and a muscle protecting it, so it's a 6 versus 5. Once again, you play cards to see if you can do it. So we have a 6, we roll a 1, that's not so good, 7 total. The other person has a 5, let's see what they roll. A 3, 8. So they would win, and she would survive, they wouldn't lose anything like that, and then we would actually lose a number of crew cards equal to the value of that, if, to the loss. And so you'd have, probably with 1, you'd have to find a hood to discard. Now, the thing is that if we had succeeded, the bootlegger would come back, and he would then be a smuggler. And we would turn him over, and we'd have him promoted in that situation. But unfortunately, that did not happen, and we'd go ahead and place that event card over there. Now, if the event card had succeeded, we would get to place it in our respect pile over here, and then we would gain 1 extra point for having succeeded that as well. It should be noted that if you do tie, the tie goes to the defender in those situations, and so you have that it's just, you have to actually beat the total that the person has, not just meet it. After you've used up all of your actions or your orders that you have available to you, at that point you do your refresh. If you, normally what you do is, after you've used something, you put an autoplay counter on the person, meaning they've actually done an action, they can't do another, take another event or do another action for you that particular turn. And what you do then is you take those off, you refresh everything on your board, and then you put the hooch down on the different locations. Like this particular pool hall, it gains 7. So you take 7 of these cubes, and you place them directly on your pool hall. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, you grab 7 exactly. That's awesome. And The reason for that is because on your next income phase, you're going to be able to take those and put them in your Hooch pile along with the 5 that you gain and anything else that you might possibly gain during that turn. The reason they're on here is that as you're waiting for your turn to come around, the other players there are event cards and things that they can use to steal those, and also if they can take over your pool hall, they're able to take the Hooch that's there as well, which of course would stink. But that just continues. Then you're done with your turn. The next person takes their turn and does that. They go through the procedure as well, as far as purchasing cards and purchasing storefronts and making attacks and doing events and so on and so forth. And you keep doing that until you reach one of 3 end game scenarios. If at any time during a player's turn, like if the action deck ever gets depleted, you go through the... Oh, I'm sorry, that's not the action deck. The action deck, because if you do happen to go through that, you do get to shuffle those back up. Not the respect pile, but the actual discard pile. If you do get through your entire action deck, these cards here, there are 45 of them. If you manage to get through all of those, then when the last card is turned over, that will be the last turn of the game. If ever a player gets a full payroll, meaning they have every single possible person, they don't have to be upgraded, except for one, and one of the characters has to be upgraded, but not all of them, and have all of the public, all of the syndicate, and they have at least one open storefront, that will trigger the end of the game, and that person's turn is the last turn of the game. Or if a player has both of their syndicate storefronts, and I should have mentioned this, you'll notice that there is like a little symbol there, like that's part of the Kickstart group, and like this is the big sixers, the moonshiners, if you will. So if you have to have both of your factions storefronts and one other one, if you have both of yours and one other one, that also will trigger. And then you also have to have at least one payroll character on their payroll. If you have that, then that also triggers the end of the game. You then add up all of your respect points that you have from your storefronts, from your characters, from your respect pile, and so on and so forth. And whoever has the most points will win the game, because they're then considered the most powerful gang in the area. And well, that's how you play the game. There's a lot that goes on, with just basically, obviously, with the many different types of cards and the different things that you can do. I never really got to show you, and I do apologize for that. But besides, like, events and influence cards, there are tons of cards in here that just allow you to mess with people. Like, here, the attacking player gets to remove a random crew card from the storefront prior to the attack. The card is placed into the hideout. So you just have these little things that you can do. You can have, hard boiled. If you have a boss or a tigress in your crew, you win the combat. So there's all kinds of things like that you have that you can use that'll like just screw with the game. So there's a lot more than just those events and influence as far as the cards go. As a matter of fact, most of the cards are of that type. And those cards themselves, the ones with the color, those are the ones that are the most thematic for your particular group. And learning how to play your particular group, as far as like their abilities and what they're capable of doing, is very important part of the game to learn. And it's also one of the best parts of the game too, because this is a game that tells a story, and this is a game that you can really enjoy and kind of get really heavily involved with. But let me tell you more about the game in general, what I think about it here in my conclusion. Yeah, alright, there. You should now have a really good idea of how to play the game Hooch. So, as I said in the introduction, it is a game that is conflict-driven. As a matter of fact, you really can't play the game and not fight somebody. You have to go after somebody, or people are going to be going after you anyway. And so you have to defend what's yours. Since the fact of the matter is that since like having the storefronts is one of the ways, well, you have to get storefronts basically because one, it's one way to win the game, but two, almost more importantly, they give you more resources and they give you more of that Hooch cube or whatever. It allows you to buy bigger and better cards and succeed at the things that you want to do. Now, also, when you attack somebody and are able to take out some of their important people that they have, that's also really important as well, because then they have to replace them or not have access to that person's abilities or powers, and that's, you know, weakening them. So the game actually has like a wonderful you know, a seesaw, if you will. And a seesaw probably isn't a good thing. Like scales of balance, I guess, or so to speak, because you are balancing. You know, I tend to play games like this. I'm a little bit timid, and probably too timid for my own good. But I like having like a really good defense, and I like kind of building up. You know, and so I'm the kind of player that like builds, and I'm constantly protecting my most valuable assets. I'm putting those gangster cards on my good storefronts, or I'm protecting my really important people. Like if I manage to get my politician to a mayor, you know, I start protecting them. And I also am a big believer in building things up and then doing something first. You know, I always but judging from how often I won, goose egg, that wasn't a really good strategy for me, because of the fact that the other players were way more liberal with their attacks, and they're more willing to go out and you know, go to fisticuffs a lot quicker than I was. So that being said, you know, I haven't got the game yet, and when I say haven't got the game, what I mean is that when I play a game, there's a certain point when eventually, like, the mechanisms and the flow of the game are second nature. Usually by the second time I played a game, you know, or even during the first one, because you just kind of get that flow and you know what you're supposed to do, and the rules kind of fall together for you. But there's a certain point when after you played a game several times, where all of a sudden you're like, I know how to play this game. I know how to figure it out. And then, you know, I can see a lot of people like that, because then they can like work on like enhancing the strategy and refining what they do. And I kind of, my love for the game, or my interest in the game, wanes at that point, because of the fact that now I'm done discovering. I'm done figuring out anything new and interesting with the game, and I want to do something else. Now, first off, like I said, I haven't done that with this game, and I have only been playing with a couple of the different decks. But that's one of the things that's really cool. There's all those different decks out there, and also there's different decks depending on, because of the shared cards, the cards from the decks that you use. One of the nice things is that it's one of those weird combo effects where, you know, a game that you played, yeah, you might have played, you know, with the people I like are I can't even think of the word I'm looking for here. The mortuary people. I like playing that deck. I just like the idea of running a funeral power or whatever. But so if I have that one, but then somebody has, say, like the police officers, or the good guys, if you will. Now, when I played that game and we combine those decks, and there's somebody else playing or whatever, and I get those event cards, that game's going to play way differently for me than a game, say, when I'm playing against somebody who has the gangsters or whatever, or not. I mean, like the people with the cats on. God, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But you know, so the fact of the matter is, since you combine all those different cards from all those different decks, and then you get that random assortment in your deck, and you don't really know what it is, you know, until you shuffle it all up and you start picking up the cards. Then, you know, that's when I really like the game, and I find myself wondering if I'm ever going to actually figure out the game, if I'm ever actually going to get to that point where I'm like, you know, I know what to expect at this point. And you know, the thing is that I feel like games like this are kind of where gaming's going in a way, and I like that. There's lots of different card games out there, and I should say, you know, not necessarily everything, but I do like that there's a lot of games like this that are coming out. Different card games that are constantly giving you different factions that have different powers and different abilities that don't mess with the base game. The base game, here are the rules. These are never going to change. But here are all these cool different little add-on decks and things like that that have all these different variable powers, and they're all really well made and really like well balanced, and you get to combine all this stuff together, and it creates a new and different way to play the game every single time. And that's one of the big reasons, you know, why I really like this game. It doesn't hurt that I love the theme. I love the gangster theme. It doesn't hurt the fact that I love conflict games, and I also get to roll dice. You know, for all of those reasons is one of the reasons why I've really enjoyed playing this game. Plus, it just looks really cool, and just, you know, these player mats are awesome, and you know, I really hope that, like, I'm sure there's a pledge level that you'll be able to get those as well, because you can obviously play without them, but those are really, really dang cool just to have. But Anyway, so as I always say, will you like this game if you like games with a gangster theme, I think you're going to like this game. If you like card games with conflict, I think you're going to like this game. If you like card games with, kind of, there's a little bit of deck building, but really the deck building is something you don't have any control over. I mean, you have your deck of cards, you shuffle them up, you get some random cards, you don't know which ones you're going to get, you shuffle those up, and you put them down there, and and then you get to play with it. And if you like trying to, optimize cards that may or may not work the best together, I think that's, it's like a puzzle. I think that's a game that you're going to like. For all those reasons, if you think you can say yes to some of those or whatever, if the game itself intrigues you that you watched in this video, I definitely suggest check it out. If you have any questions about the gameplay, I'll be more than happy to answer those to the best of my ability. Yeah, and thank you very much, as always, for taking the time to watch this video. So until next time, you have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right, bye-bye now.